Take it away,
Thank you
guys.
so much for the introduction.
Very exciting crowd. We are very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, welcome.
We are Menlo Innovations, and we are here to talk about extreme interviewing. I'm Mollie Callahan. I'm one of 4 high-tech anthropologists here at Menlo.
And I'm Josh, a software developer. Been here for about a year, and been here a little bit longer.
2.5, yep.
Cool.
So as I mentioned, the bread and butter of our business is building custom software. Sorry, we're hearing a bit of echo. Is this coming through okay?
Okay.
On your end while you're talking, that will, I'm told that will help.
Wonderful.
How's that?
Much better.
Okay, so let's try this again. The bread and butter, what we do here at Menlo Innovations is design and build custom software. And we are united by a single mission, and that is to end human suffering in the world that relates to technology. That sounds a little lofty, but we take it very seriously. And we do that for 3 sets of stakeholders. The first one are our project sponsors, who basically struggle to meet project deadlines on time and on budget. And so we work in a way that helps to mitigate those problems. The second set of stakeholders are the end users, who are the recipients of software that they have little say in the design of, and often find use of that software a miserable and frustrating experience. And then finally, and I think this is what will really resonate with your group, it's the people who actually do work, right? So the people, the designers, the developers who work in the software industry often suffer as they design and build and work under conditions that are less than ideal, usually 80 hours near deadlines. So part of our mission is to end the suffering across those 3 areas.
And so, in order to accomplish that mission, it's important for us to attract and hire the right people. We feel that our definition of bringing joy to people and our end users is centered around being able to deliver value and effective products. And in order to do that, we set out to create a high-performance team. And we define a high-performance team a little differently here, and that's foundationally centered on culture. That's why we look at culture over qualifications first.
So that brings us to why do we hire for cultural fit first? Because building strong human relationships is key to how we work. So if you haven't heard, at Menlo, we do a very weird thing. We pair. We pair across all roles all the time. That's 1 computer for every 2 individuals.
Yep. We co-create. These are not just within our own roles. So developers will co-create with each other. HTAs, our high-tech anthropologists, will work together and co-create as well. But we'll also pair cross-functionally and get very close together. And we work in a very collaborative environment where communication is key and creation happens on the fly.
So a lot of people think about pairing or collaboration between pairs and across pairs as sort of shadowing one another. But we want to emphasize that this is really about mutual engagement and having both people invested in the problem and in the solution.
And so a big part of the strength of pairing is being able to transfer knowledge rapidly. So when you are sitting, oftentimes we'll pair a senior person with a new person, and that transfer of knowledge of the project or what's happening around the factory is happening quickly and without emails or barriers to communication, because we all sit together very closely and we pair. Our pairs will often rotate, and so we're able to transfer that knowledge very quickly. You may be on one project and you get switched over to another project. One person will remain the same and transfer that knowledge from the morning or from the rest of that week, to that person at that time. So it allows us to quickly scale up our projects and transfer knowledge really quickly.
So pairing also means that culture at Menlo is one of collective ownership. Our developers are stewards rather than owners of code. Similarly, our high-tech anthropologists or UX research and design team collectively owns the designs and the insights that we get from observing and interviewing users in the field. So this collective ownership goes a long way to creating a cohesive culture. And these collaborative principles extend to the ways that pairs interact with one another, as well as the way that we interact with our clients. So that collaboration extends beyond Menlo as well.
Right. And so we feel that pairing, the benefits of those, the powers of that stuff is that we catch mistakes a lot faster. It's two sets of eyes, two sets of brains, looking at what's going on. That means that something's not going to slide for very long. Someone will catch up pretty quickly and notice the mistakes. We call that 200% accountability. It also speeds up the problem solving because we don't get blocked. As a software developer, if I'm working on a problem that's particularly tricky, I know I have someone else next to me to help jar it loose or to provide their perspective. And we're also sitting close to other pairs that are probably listening to us talk about the problems. And so it fuels innovation and increases productivity very quickly.
So what does all of this have to do with how and why we hire the way that we do? Well, because human relationships are such a critical aspect to how we design and build software, we have to interview for culture first. So how does that work? We're going to walk you through some of the mechanics of our extreme interviewing process.
Yeah, so the first step in our interviewing process we call the extreme interview. And the extreme interview consists of about 20 to 40 people that we invite to Menlo for about 2 hours. And so we feel that while bringing your resume and being an A+ student, maybe a 4.0 student at a prestigious university is great, but that doesn't necessarily make you an excellent collaborator. And we feel the best results and the best products come out of extreme collaboration. So one of the ways to observe that very quickly is to put people in the pairing situation right off the bat. So there will be 20 to 40 people at once, and there'll be 3 different exercises. They're usually role specific, so there'll be a dev task, and a high-tech anthropologist task, and a project management task. All roles will work on each task, and it will about 20 minutes. Then we'll rotate. So a Menloian one of us will be observing the interaction. And the funny part is, you see that in this picture, James is giving the instructions to the audience, and James will tell our CEO will tell the interviewees how to succeed. He will say something to the effect of, "If you want to be invited back, you'll make your pair partner look good," which is sort of fundamental to pairing. You get invited back if you're sharing the pencil, right? If you're not a hog when it comes to hogging the materials and trying to find the right answers.
So the entire process that Josh has described is very counterintuitive. The expectation that the way individuals will be hired is by actually making the person that they're paired with, who's competing for the same position, look good enough to get hired themselves. So this is what the actual pairing on role-specific tasks look like. In the background, you have 2 candidates interviewing for a position, and the person whose back is to you is the Menlonian, observing and taking notes on that interaction. So they're paying attention to all those kindergarten skills that are fundamental to collaboration. Josh mentioned, they share the pencil. Do they actively listen to their partner, or do they dominate the interaction? Are they able to adjust their style based on the needs of different pair partners? So each candidate will do tasks with different individuals so that we can see that. And importantly, do they have a sense of humor? Do they not take themselves too seriously? And are they humble enough to say they don't know? So even though these tasks are role specific, design tasks or development tasks, part of those clear expectations that are set up in the beginning is at this point, the product of that task, the output, is not going to be evaluated. This is solely a screen for cultural fit.
Ultimately, the question we're trying to answer is, would I pair with this person? One of the most ultimate compliments here is, who would you walk into a burning building with? So what we're trying to figure out is, who's a good cultural fit? Who would we like to pair with again in the future? So after the first round, the extreme interview is over, the team will all gather around some dinner and we'll vote each candidate, either thumbs up or thumbs down or in the middle. There'll be 3 observers, primary observers, and if all 3 have their thumbs up in the air, the candidate, we move on and talk about the next candidate. The successful candidates are ranked into 3 groups and brought back for a 1-day interview. Unsuccessful candidates are given feedback and welcome back at future interviews.
So what happens on the 1 day? On the 1 day, we bring back those successful candidates in the extreme interview to verify that it wasn't a fluke, right? That all of the great things that we observed about their collaborative skills are still present and sustainable across an entire day of work on an actual client project paired in with a current Menlo team member. We are assessing the candidate's ability to effectively transfer that project knowledge in order to onboard a new teammate, because this is a crucial skill for high-performing collaborative teams. So halfway through the day, that candidate will not only switch pairs, but will now be challenged to lead that new pair in the work that was accomplished earlier that morning. So at a very high level, there is some assessment here for the technical baseline, but the focus is not only could you pair with this person all day, every day for their duration at Menlo, but are they teachable? Where there are gaps in their skill set, can we teach those through our paired efforts?
So if at the end of a 1 day, the team will, everyone who's interacted with the one candidate, and that's usually about 5 people, maybe 5 to 10 people, will gather at the end and sort of talk about what they observed and ultimately answer the question again, would I pair with this person again? So if so, we invite them back for a 3-week interview. So this is a little bit different because we actually ask them to come spend 3 weeks with us and work on a billable client project. We paid them to work on the 1-day project. We'll also pay them while they're here working on client billable work for 3 weeks. We find that pairing with candidates is a more predictive way of assessing both the pairing and personal kindergarten skills, but also the technical baseline. We verify that the skills displayed at the 1-day weren't a fluke as well. And so I think this is a big difference than other traditional companies who use more technical type tests for software developers. There are books out there that allow developers to study for these sorts of questions that you may get in a more formal technical interview. And what we've seen is that it is much more predictive to actually work with somebody for 3 weeks.
So this essentially, our 3-week is essentially an extended dress rehearsal for what working at Menlo would be like for this individual and for our team. So both sides of the equation are assessing that cultural fit. It also gives us the opportunity to look at additional soft skills beyond that basic collaboration, such as communication. Do they think clearly, concisely? Do they communicate out loud? Do they have good consulting skills? Public speaking, presenting work in progress to clients is a huge part of what we do. And so during that 3-week period, we want to put that potential candidate in as many of those situations as as we possibly can, because again, we're getting a sense for what is the range of their skills, what is their flexibility and openness to change. We're also looking at paired environment. There's a very important balance between being able to push back on the assumptions that one individual is bringing to the work, but also being open to others' ideas. So not always thinking that their way is the right way. And so throughout this 3-week process, one of the important aspects that gets incorporated is a strong feedback loop. So feedback is also very big at Menlo. And at the end of each week of this 3-week hiring screen, they are going to get feedback on where they delivered according to expectations, where the team believes that they have room to grow. And so we're also simultaneously assessing how open are they to feedback, how responsive are they.
Right. And so ultimately what we're looking for is somebody that we can plug into our, agile, high performing team. And what does that look like to us? We feel that, success looks like hiring candidates that can collaborate to bring joy to our clients and deliver valuable, effective, impactful solutions, ultimately accomplishing our mission, which is to end human suffering or reduce human suffering as it relates to technology. And we define success and joy and high performance quite a bit differently. So we feel it's imperative that we hire the people that we can plug in and are good culturally first.
So it's important to note that the extreme interview process that we've described really started as an experiment, one that was intended to create flexibility in the workforce and increase quality and do all of the things that Josh talked about in terms of the benefits of collaboration. It has stayed and refined because it has worked. And we now have 3,000 to 4,000 visitors every year who come to see exactly what that looks like. And our hiring practices are part of that. So the extreme interview that we described, we have visitors come and shadow and observe to think about how that may impact their own internal hiring practices.
So thank you for, you see us? So that concludes our PowerPoint. We're having a little bit of trouble switching back and forth, so thank you for bearing with us. But yeah,
We recognize that wasn't ideal, but we are happy to answer your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Give him a hand. Can you guys see me? Excellent. One question. This process, what's it like? How does it feel? What's it like for the applicants and what's it like for you as Menlonians to participate in this kind of process?
Well, so since my extreme interview is more recent than Mollie's, I'll approach it from the side of the candidate. I think it can be kind of scary. It's a little bit different, right? As I think developers are historically sort of introverted type people who, when you put them with 20, 30, 40 people, it's a little uncomfortable. But it's a quick way it filters out, right? You're a good fit. It's like we said earlier about that two-way fit. I think the candidate can feel really quickly whether or not this is going to be the right environment for them. Maybe they're comfortable in an environment where they have walls and computer and places to escape. But I found it really exciting. You always have different people to pair with. There's a language barrier with one of my pair partners, which was an interesting challenge to overcome, and it's pretty exciting.
I would say from the applicant perspective too, they do have unique challenges. Pairing is it's one of those things that's easy to feel and recognize when it's working well, but kind of hard to explain. And so even if you're somebody who fits that model, if you're paired with people who aren't, that presents unique struggles. And we see that from the hiring side. As Menlonians interviewing, it's amazing how giving people very clear expectations about how to succeed does not stop bad behaviors that we're trying to weed out. So it's, people just can't help themselves when under pressure and trying to impress and get the job. And so I think, again, from the hiring side, we're very grateful at the opportunity to be able to vet the soft skills and the cultural fit prior to hiring, and then sort of being stuck with folks that aren't going to work out, for lack of better word. I think because the team, one thing that we should emphasize here is that the team is the one who hires. The team hires, fires, and promotes. And we do that because we are the ones who are going to have to work with each other. So if we don't do that right, there's a tremendous sense of failure and responsibility, to help fix it, which is where that feedback comes in. So one more quick comment around what it feels like in the 1 day and the 3 week is that it does eventually feel, you get a sense for what it feels like to actually work in this place. And for the Menlonians, you get a sense of what it actually would feel like to have that person working there. And so it's a wonderful way to not have to imagine something and just experience and know whether it's going to work or not, and get feedback about that. That you a lot of times in interviews, you have one shot and that's it, right? In the extreme interview, you get to pair 3 different times to kind of course correct along the way. And in the extended version of that, you have 3 weeks to do that. I think,
or 6 weeks. Yeah,
that's true. We didn't get into exceptions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh and Mollie from Menlo Innovations.